Today, we're diving into a part of real estate that most investors overlook, but really shouldn't. And that's going to be we're going to talk about affordable housing, mobile home communities, and land home developments, which are one of the most powerful ways to build wealth in real estate while actually solving a real problem. And my guest today is Robert Howell, who's an investor, he's a developer, he's an educator, and most importantly, he's an owner operator of over 250 mobile home lots across the Southeast US. And Robert specializes in land home packages and affordable housing communities, which is a real hot topic right now. His mission is simple, which is to create opportunity, provide dignity through housing, and build businesses that put purpose before profit. So if you've ever wondered how to invest with impact and still build a serious wealth portfolio for you and your family, this is an episode that you're going to want to stick around till the end. So, Robert, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Really happy to be here and kick off this conversation.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's start out by talking about your story because it's unique. So, if you can talk for a minute about how you actually got involved in mobile home parks and in land home developments.
Yeah, so um, I was really a career guy and was doing marketing for the last 16 years before I got into real estate, doing event marketing specifically for Fortune 100 companies like Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, John Deere. And when COVID hit, I was working in Tokyo, going back and forth, working on the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Well, COVID hit, and I was like, man, there's never going to be another event again. I've got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
The Olympics were delayed a year, if you remember that. And I said, man, I got to do something different. So I'd always had some interest in real estate. I'd have bought some rental properties historically before COVID, not a ton, but just here and there. And COVID hit, and I was like, man, I'm going to buy intentional real estate. And really, what that meant for me was I'm going to just buy and wholesale. I was pretty risk adverse at the time and still am, but still take a conservative approach. But so I started with affordable housing, buying and selling houses in South Carolina. I live in Clemson, go Tigers. And I was buying houses for $5,000, selling them for 25,000. And this was before things went crazy, of course. And as I was buying, I ran across a gentleman that owned mobile home parks, or his nephew owned mobile home parks. And he said, hey, my nephew owns that mobile home park across the street. I had no idea about mobile home parks, but what I did know is I knew affordable housing because that's what I'd bought from a rental standpoint and also from a wholesaling standpoint. And I said, look, I'll give it a shot. Yeah, I'm interested in buying it. Little did I know it was a great deal because I didn't know anything about mobile home parks, but I knew the terms were good. The seller sold it to me on seller financing. It was 110 lots, which is a really big mobile home park based on what I know now. And he financed it for 30 years, no payments for the first year. It was a great, great deal. So I bought that, owned it for a year. And then as part of that, in South Carolina, if you sell more than two mobile homes, then you're supposed to have a dealer's license. So I said, hey, I want to do things the right way. I'm going to get my dealer's license for mobile homes so I could buy direct from the factory. Well, this was during COVID, and the factories were only really selling to the people that had bought previously. But I knew what I could buy them for, and so I said, well, I need to start buying some land and putting new mobile homes on land and selling those to first-time homeowners. And so I started doing that, kind of as COVID was winding down, and have continued to do that throughout the years. So I bought a bunch of mobile home parks throughout the last 5 or 6 years. Also have done a lot of land home development, providing affordable housing, typically to first-time homeowners in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee.
So, for those of our listeners that are new to this whole idea, really just the entire concept of land home development, talk about what is land home development and how does it differ from traditional real estate investing, buying a single family or multifamily and then renting it out. Like just talk about the differences because that's what most are just conditioned to. Like that's normal real estate, right? You buy a property and you rent it out or you sell it, right? Like that's it. Talk about land home investing though, specifically land home development and how it's different.
Yeah, I would. So I would put it in the category of flipping, right? It's short term. We're right now, I'm not buying and doing these developments with the intent to hold them. Other than mobile home parks, I'm buying mobile home parks, but that's really a separate strategy. For land home development, I'd put it in the same category as flipping. It's active income. It's today money, right? I start a project 4 to 6 months later, I'm going to sell it and I'm going to cash out of that project and move on to the next one. But in terms of what's different, I can tell you, number one, it's so much better. It's very predictable. It's the same process over and over again. And if I about kind of specifically what are the details, first thing I do is I buy land. So I market for land, send out postcards, send out letters, do some cold calling, maybe some text marketing, get a seller to say, "Hey, I want to sell my land to you," which is a lot less emotional than, "Hey, I want to sell my house,"
Hmm.
right? So that's the first step. Um, the second step is now we're under contract on land. We go through all of our due diligence. We're going to check the soil. We're going to make sure it's zoned properly, so on. Once we do that, then we're going to close on the property. Well, we've already done all our due diligence, so we know it's the right property. We know that we can do a septic tank. We know that water's available, so on. So we close on the property and we order the mobile home from the factory. Direct from the factory, we get a great price on it, and that home ships to us from the factory. Typically, I'm doing these in South Carolina and kind of in the southeast, so it's going to ship from North Carolina factories, maybe Georgia, maybe Tennessee, and that's going to arrive somewhere between 2 and 6 weeks from the time that I order it. That home arrives on site. We're going to block and tie it down. We're going to set up that home, do everything that you would do for a site built house, except for the house is already framed and it's got siding on it, it's got a roof on it, so on. So we're going to do plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and get that home ready to sell. Typically, that process takes about 2 months from the time that we close on the land. So I'm going to close on the land today. 2 months from now, I'm going to have that home listed for sale. We're going to list that home for sale at a great affordable price for a first time homeowner. And our hope is that within the first month, we're going to have that home under contract to sell. And what we typically see is that within 4 to 6 months of closing on the land, we will have sold the house and moved on to the next project.
So while you're holding the land, do you just have the carrying costs of the land, like taxes that might be due or that sort of thing? Or is there anything else that
That's
you have to
typically
pay
it.
for?
Yeah. I mean, just taxes. But to be honest, like I'm not really holding land that long. Because again, if I close on it today, within 2 months, that whole land will be fully cleared and it'll have a brand new house on it set up and ready to list.
I also know the taxes on land, wherever you're at in the US, is much more reasonable
Yeah.
than a 300, $500,000 plus property on there. I see it all the time with new construction where you see this really low tax value. I just had a property, it's $1 million home. The taxes on the land were like 1,400 a year and it was like an acre and a half, 2 acre lot. So
Yep.
that was up here in Connecticut where the taxes are more. I can only imagine you might have land down there in South Carolina where the taxes are 500 for the year, right?
Yep.
If that,
Exactly.
probably
Yep.
even
If
less.
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome. But let me ask you this, Robert. Why do you think that land home development, like we're talking about, and just mobile home investing in general, like why do you think it's so overlooked by most real estate investors? And those that actually look at it misunderstand it, right? Like they don't get it. Why is that? Because to me it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. What I would say is, number one, I think there's a stigma with mobile homes that really there shouldn't be. That stigma is from 20 years ago, right? When if you lived in a mobile home, maybe you were dangerous or I don't know, like there's lots of stigmas, right? It's like a mobile home park. I was talking with a gentleman yesterday actually, and we were talking about mobile home parks, and he's like, "What's it like to invest in mobile home parks in South Carolina?" And I'm like, "Man, you know what? It's actually not. It's not bad at all. Everyone wants a good roof over their head, right? And most people, and of course, there's the bad apples every once in a while, right? But most people just want a good roof over their head. They want somebody to take care of them, whether you're renting or you're buying, right? Um, People renting, they want an opportunity just to have a good roof over their head, have a landlord that takes care of themselves. And maybe historically, if they've lived in mobile homes for 20 years, they didn't always have that, right? But if you take care of them, they're good people. Um, in terms of buying, most people that are buying mobile homes just want to have an opportunity to own something, right? They want an opportunity to own a home and get that appreciation, get that long-term investment, get a place to call their own. And I'd say, in terms of kind of misconceptions, most people that are outside of this mobile home world don't think that same way, right? They think, oh, that's like the last resort, right? That's I don't want to deal with those type of people and so on, which is not true at all. Um, and there's probably a lot of unknowns too, right? Before we started educating people with the Land Home League, which is our education program, there wasn't really anyone educating on land home development and how to do it. Like, what's the process from A to Z? Of course, there's people that are out there executing it without education, just by learning, on their feet, but not a lot of people that are out there teaching you. Whereas you think about flipping, or you think about land buying, you think about apartment buying, there's a ton of people teaching you how to do that, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Some people just get out there and do it themselves, but they don't necessarily want to educate others or create a course or anything like that. And sometimes when there's something that's too good to be true, it's just like, hey, let's keep it to ourselves, right? Like, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
everyone's
I'm
got
with
their
you.
own,
There are times where I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't be educating all these people, but
right.
I love teaching people. I love seeing other people be successful. And
Hmm.
number one, I'm an operator. We did 50 land home deals last year. Want to do more this year,
Hmm.
but second to that is I do personally have a true heart for affordable housing, and think there's a huge need in this country for opportunities for people to buy housing, right? And if we can address it, we can't address the whole thing, of course, but if we can do what we can do here in our little state of South Carolina or North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, to address it, then that's a win, right? And
No, that's
yeah, I can't do
huge.
it all myself, but maybe I can teach some people and expand the reach
Well, yeah,
beyond
it'll
just
go
what I can do.
nationwide just through education. So, two
Yep.
real quick thoughts that I had on this piece that I want to point out is number one, mobile homes. When we're talking about mobile homes, manufactured housing, right?
Hmm.
Like you said, it's not the mobile home of 20 years ago. It's not. I'll tell you, I've seen some of these new mobile homes that are built in the last 5 years. A lot of them, you can't even tell that they are not a regular, traditionally built home. Stick built, I think you call it, right? You
Right.
can't even tell. Like the finishes, the way the home is just like you wouldn't even be able to tell. I actually have a client right now who runs an Airbnb out of one of these down in Florida, right near the beach. 5-star rated Airbnb, and it appraised close to $300,000. And if you looked at this property, you would have no idea that it's a manufactured home. Okay, you would not know at all. So it gives you those amenities that you want, right? A lot of the time. Then the other thing that I want to point out is the affordable housing piece. Like, let's be real for a second. I'm in the mortgage industry, I deal with it every day. I have people come to me that don't make a lot of money, and I'm here in the Northeast. If I'm pre approving someone for, say, $250,000, that doesn't buy you almost anything almost anywhere up here anymore. Back in 2019 and before, plenty of opportunity. But in 2026 and beyond, if you're not, in the market for a home that's 300, 400, 500,000 or more, you're really not in the market. And when I approve someone for a low amount, I know in the back of my head, like, good luck finding a home for that low of an amount in this market. I'm not a realtor, so I'm not here to say there's nothing available or you have to look in this area, but I know from seeing average prices and what's going on. This affordable housing issue it's a nationwide problem and it's a huge problem. Like we've heard about it from the politicians and stuff, but like to actually see a way to find a solution for this is huge. I think people need to be doing this in a lot of areas that they're not. I own property in North Carolina. I go down to the Carolinas a lot myself in Georgia. Like I know around there, there's not as much of a stigma. There are a lot of these mobile home parks and stuff. But if you come up to the Northeast, there's not many. Over on the West Coast, California, like there's not a ton of these, like everywhere you look, right? And these are the areas, the Northeast coast and the West Coast, these are the most unaffordable areas in the US to live. So these are
Hmm.
the areas where we need entrepreneurs, we need business people to take it by the horns, what you're saying today, and actually run with it and turn it into something like you've done. So that transitions me to my next question for you, which is you own over 250 of these lots now. What does that look like? Like, what is operating at that scale when you own hundreds of these lots? Like, on a day to day basis, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I took the decision when I first started buying these. I owned a roofing company at that time and had an obligation really during the day to work on that roofing company. I didn't have the freedom that I have now from full-time real estate investing. But that being said, I took the decision to hire a property management company to manage it for me. And so my focus really is on the acquisition and the value add of the mobile home parks. Typically, I'm buying at a lower price because there's some value add. That might be fixing up vacant units, that might be cleaning up the park, might be evicting people that are non-paying tenants. And so that's really where my focus is. Whereas the property manager focus is really focused on the tenant side. So screening the tenants, placing the tenants, recruiting the tenants, collecting the rent, collecting any past due balances, evicting if necessary, and then they handle some of the smaller repairs. And so up to really they probably handle up to $1,000 repair. If it's over that, then I'll usually bring in my own contractors. So from a day-to-day management standpoint, it's really not a ton of hours for me because I'm really just focused on the acquisition side and any value add. And I've completed most of the value add projects on the parts that I own currently.
I like that. So, one of the things that I've talked about, like, I have a management company that I use for my property down in North Carolina. I haven't been down there in over 6 years. And, I
That's
hear you
nice.
also. You won't also use a management company. I've had a lot of other investors on the show here. And one thing I really hear a lot of is once you scale to like a certain level, everyone's different, but once you hit that level, 10 properties, 20, 30, whatever it is, it's just not even realistic to try to do it yourself. You need a third party operator in there. You need someone with boots on the ground that can manage this stuff day to day. So you, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you can be out there, like Robert said, looking at your next deal, figuring out your acquisition.
Right.
You're only getting your hands dirty when you need to get your hands dirty. Like you said, bigger repairs, bigger issues. But like the day to day, just the blah part of managing property, that's all handled by a third party manager. And that's huge. Um, that's huge because everyone's doing it. So like so many people try to just do it all themselves. You can't. You can't get to 100 lots doing this, trying to do it all yourself. Like you're not. Go talk and look and study the business of anyone who's doing what Robert's doing. They're not doing it on their own. And if it looks like they are, they probably have someone full time on staff, a family member, somebody that's actually handling that day to day. So that's huge that you mentioned that. And I really want to point that out for everybody because when you think about hundreds of these properties, like it's a lot to take on. But when you realize that you've got a team behind you, it's not just you, there's others involved, then it takes a lot of the sting away. So when you're talking about acquisition, Robert, let's look at we're here in 2026. You're identifying new properties, you're identifying markets you want to be in. So, how do you identify right now? What is the right market that you want to be buying in? What's the best location for a new land home development?
Yeah, so in terms of land home development, the process I go through, and it's a simple, almost back of the napkin process. I go to Zillow, I look and see what are the sold comps. For me personally, I'd like to look above 250K. Depending on the area, I'll go down to 225. In our local area in the upstate of South Carolina, we can do 225 and still make a good profit. In some of the more expensive areas like the low country of South Carolina, we're going to look for 250K plus sales price. And that's simply based on the cost of the land. The land is more expensive. Most of the other costs are pretty similar. But anyways, that being said, go to Zillow, look at the sold comps, 250K plus in manufactured housing. There's typically not a ton of new comps because there's not a lot of people doing spec manufactured housing. And so we're going to look at used mobile homes. We're also going to look at site built houses. And typically, what we like to do is say, can we sell for 75% of the site built house price if we're looking to try to enter a market? But hopefully there's enough used and maybe one or two new homes, manufactured homes that we can look at. And then we'll really narrow in on that specific area, and we'll say, okay, that looks like a good market, and let's start to market to those zip codes.
Okay, okay. So you definitely have a method to what you're doing and you know
Yeah,
the
yeah,
areas you
try
want to
to,
be in.
and I feel confident, especially if you see multiples in a zip code. You look around, if you did that exercise in the state of South Carolina, you'll see about five or six areas that will sell for 250K plus. And, simply on Zillow, you'll look and see a lot of yellow dots in a concentrated area.
So if you're looking in an area like this and you see a bunch of sales, like you see what you're looking for, right? Activity, I guess. So what are some of the unique challenges that you have then at that point versus someone who's looking on Zillow for an existing home? Like, again, pros and cons. We're kind of comparing mobile home, land home investing to regular stick built home flipping, for example. So talk about some of the challenges that you see that are different from the regular real estate investor.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's challenges would be, is the soil good? We really won't know that until we're under contract.
Hmm.
We can get an indication maybe from our septic contractor to go out there and look at the soil. So that's number one. Number two is topography. There's a lot of times where you'll get an opportunity to buy a lot and it'll be a still of a deal and you'll get excited about it. Well, then you go out there and you walk it and the topography is it's a cliff, right? And so you got to be real careful on that. Um, this would probably be similar to a house flipper, but we don't want to be on a busy road. We don't want bad neighbors, right? That could be bad neighbors is just the way their homes look, or it could be they've got a barking dog, right? And it doesn't stop barking, right? Um, so some of that's similar to what a house flipper, but for us as land home guys, really the two main challenges would be around soil conditions and also the grading, I guess, would be one, and the topography.
Okay. So a lot of people, including me, like I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, this sounds like a great investment opportunity. It seems like there is a big need for this. So if we're talking about private lending for a second, someone's listening and they don't want to go and find the deal, right? They don't want to do all the what's the topography and the location and all the market stuff you're talking about. They don't want to do that, but they've got, say, 50 grand, 100 grand that they want to invest. So talk about how you build win-win structures for that type of deal with private lenders, with partners. Like, how do you structure that if someone's got money they want to invest with you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so as you would probably expect, all of these projects take money to execute, right? And so we partner with private lenders to lend on these projects. And typically, the way that looks is that private lender is going to have, just like your regular house mortgage, they're going to have a first position note mortgage on the house and on the development and on the land. And we're going to pay an interest rate, and that interest rate is really dependent upon our partnership and the number of deals that we do together. But we like to say it's competitive and it's better than you can earn in the market, and it helps you to diversify your investment, right? And so that's the way we look at private lenders. We also look at maybe there's someone that's listening that says, "Hey, look, I don't have time to do this full time, but I would like to learn and like to be involved in the project." So at that point, maybe it looks like more of a JV relationship where we partner up on a deal, and someone that's listening could serve as a lender on the project, but also add some additional value to the project. That could be, hey, maybe they found the land, right? Or hey, maybe they want to be involved in some of the project management. They can't handle the entire project because of their other commitments, but they could handle some of the responsibility.
Okay. So just to be clear, then this is like a debt, for the most part, it's like a debt investment, right? Where a lender
That's
would
right.
come in with you and say, hey, here's 50 grand. And you'd say, okay, we're going to give you, for example, 12% return on your money, paid monthly, I assume, right? It's like a monthly payment they'd make. So, yeah, I mean, it's a debt investment. And in real estate, there's a lot of debt investment that you can do. This is just a different part of the real estate sector. You can be a lender, buy parts of notes on commercial buildings, single family homes, and now you're hearing about land home investments. So, definitely a good place to put your money to work for sure if you're looking for passive income. I think that's the big thing someone's going to get with a role like that of a private lender is they're going to be passive. Like they're not getting a crazy call at 2 a.m. They're just getting money deposited in their bank account every month based
Yep.
on how much they invested. And it's passive. Like the money hits, you can pay your bills with it, do what you want to do. So that's definitely attractive. Now, somebody that wants to be more hands on, like you're saying, maybe they want to find the land, they want to be involved a little more. What are you seeing as like the big beginner mistakes? Someone gets involved, no experience, they want to do this, but they don't want to make the big mistakes that everyone makes, right? What are the biggest ones that you see with brand new investors in this niche, and how can they avoid them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And been doing this for 4 or 5 years and have made a lot of mistakes, and quite honestly, still make mistakes today. They're less damaging financially than they were when we first started, of course. But the biggest thing is completing due diligence and going through all the steps one by one, and not skipping over one because you're lazy or because you're too excited about the deal. There's many times where we'll come upon a lot. Actually, I'd give you an example. We came upon a lot. It's a great city. It'd be a great return for us. There's houses all around it. And then there's these two vacant lots. We're like, all right, this is a good deal. Let's buy it. And we were eager to move and we're going to close on it without the soul test. And something in me said, no, we need to do the soul test. Let's do the right thing. So we did the soul test, and sure enough, there was rock right under the dirt, and you couldn't do a septic tank there. And so we could have potentially bought that lot and would have paid $40,000 for 2 lots, I think. Um, and then it'd be worthless really because there's nothing we could do with it, nothing any future buyer could do with it. So going through those due diligence steps is really important. The second is checking for restrictions. That may be a zoning restriction. It could be a deed restriction. And
Mm-hmm.
this has happened to us early on, where our closing attorney didn't check the deed restrictions. We closed on the property, started moving a mobile home there. The neighbor says, "Hey, you can't put a mobile home here. That's not allowed." We thought, "Hey, it's just a neighbor who didn't like mobile homes, right?" And we continued working. Well, soon enough, the HOA really came after us, and sure enough, there was a deed restriction that the closing attorney missed. Luckily, we hadn't gotten too far, so we're able to
Mm-hmm.
move it and move it to another lot. But that still cost us a considerable amount of money to move that and set it up on another lot. So go through those due diligence steps. Make sure you're really diligent on checking that off. And then what I love about these is that if you do that right, then the moment you close on the property, you can sleep well at night knowing that everything checked out. Now we can just follow the steps one by one and complete this project.
So the big thing I'm hearing from you is taking the extra time up front to do the research, do the title search, do the legal, the legal backing, right? Know what you're getting into. That extra due diligence, especially on your first couple deals, it's going to be make it or break it. I mean, that's the bottom line. It sounds like, as in many areas of real estate, if you do the wrong thing or you think it doesn't matter, it may come back to bite you later. You may end up losing money. You may end up losing a lot of money. The
That's right.
standpoint I always come from is, especially on your first deals, no matter what type of real estate you're doing, partner with somebody.
Hmm.
Like, even if it's, hey man, you've done a lot of these, I'm going to pay you a consulting fee just to look over my shoulder, just so I can run stuff by. Like, it is worth it to do that on your first couple deals. It is so easy. I will say, it sounds like it's easier to have a dud in this niche than it is in a lot of other parts of real estate, because again, you're like buying land and you don't know, especially if you're buying out of state areas that you aren't familiar with. It doesn't take a lot to have a piece of land that's either worthless or worth a lot less than you paid for it, right? And by the time you find out, it can be too late, unfortunately. And like any real estate investor, you got to learn in the school of hard knocks, where you actually lose money and you don't make those mistakes twice, right? So I think it's important for people to just hear that, like, don't go at it alone. Don't try to do this on your own. I say you can try, but you're going to have a higher risk. So
Yeah.
learn from Robert and those in the industry that have done this, and let them be your mentors. Let them make sure you don't make that side of mistake. So as we wrap up here, one major question I had for you is, for residents, like, let's fast forward. You've got a property, you've got the land, the mobile home's on it, it's ready to go, it's sold, you're selling it, right, to an end buyer. So, like, how does a resident, an end homeowner, benefit from a land home package and buying that land home package versus if they were either going to rent it instead of buy, or if they were just going to be like, no, I'm not going to do a land home package. I'm going to go buy just like a fixer upper, like a regular $150,000 house somewhere that's like not a manufactured, not a mobile home. So, why is there a benefit? How do residents benefit from the actual package, purchasing that package versus renting or doing something in another part of real estate, not in this part?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think they're going to get a nicer product than they could afford otherwise. Um, and they're going to get more square footage. We see a lot, and sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. But I can tell you, in a recent experience, we had a buyer that was looking at our manufactured home. It was 1,680 square feet, brand new. Don't forget, these are made in a factory. And what that does is that means you're building outside of inside a building without any weather conditions, right? And so your home is not sitting there for 9 months getting rained on, getting wind, having contractors that maybe worked there yesterday but uh, didn't work for 2 weeks on the same product. These are made in factory. They're made by the same people, following the same exact process every single time without any weather conditions. So we think the quality of it is better than what you can get in a site built house. But anyways, that being said, in today's market, your options when you're looking at houses and comparable to ours, you can get a 1,680 square foot, in this example, brand new construction house that's detitled to the land that's going to gain value and going to
Mm-hmm.
appreciate over time versus hey, you can go get a townhouse, right? Or you can get an old mill house. And nothing against townhouses or nothing against mill houses, but if you had a choice, are you going to buy an old mill house that needs a little renovation that was built in 1950, or are you going to buy a brand new house that is a larger house that's brand new in perfect condition? I'd say all day long. That comes with a 1 year manufacturer warranty, by the way. I'd say all day long, I'm going to get a bigger space and get a brand new house.
Yeah.
And
What about
20,
versus renting? I mean, can they rent these from you or?
I don't do any rentals of these, but there are
Okay.
people that will do rentals, or maybe they'll do seller financing. But we don't do that specifically. But renting these would be perfectly fine too, and you'd get the same value, I believe.
It's
Your
just like
options.
renting a house, though. You don't have the same flexibility when it comes to painting and doing improvements and things like that. You have more flexibility when you own versus rent, no matter what type of property.
That's right.
Okay, okay, that's awesome. Well, Robert, I want to thank you for spending some time with us today for sure. It's been eye-opening. This is a part of real estate that most people don't even understand or have heard about. So I'm like so happy that you took the time out to be with us and explain really why this is such a innovative part of the industry, especially right now. So if you can just go ahead and for all of our listeners, if you can give your website, your email, your contact, if people want to either learn from you and get your courses, get your education on how to do this themselves, or if they want to partner with you on deals and put money in the pot with you and actually get a return. So can you give all your info on how they can link up?
Yeah, for sure. The easiest way to reach me is my cell phone, and this is my personal cell phone number, which is 864-293-2798. Again, that's 864-293-2798. And you can shoot me a text, give me a call. Always happy to talk. As I mentioned to Robert earlier, I love helping people, whether that be you're looking for a house and we can help you find a house, or you're an investor and you're looking to get into the land home game or just learn a little bit more about it. Happy to have that conversation. Or maybe you're a lender and you're looking to deploy some money and diversify. Let's have a conversation. I think this is a great asset, whether you're an investor or a lender. It's really a great asset. There's a huge need in affordable housing, and the returns on these are really really great.
Yeah, no doubt about it at all. Well, it was great just covering affordable housing and land home development, mobile home parks, the opportunity. There's just a lot of positivity around this in the future of real estate. And I'm just happy that you were able to share some knowledge. So, for our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you, and I really hope it did, or if you're just curious about how land home investing actually works, make sure that you reach out to Robert. Make sure you talk to him, collaborate with him, discuss with him, see how you might be able to work together. And of course, make sure you keep following the show. If this episode brought you value, share it with someone else too. There's a lot of people right now that need this information. They're looking for it. They know the opportunities in real estate, they just don't know how to get there. And if you found value, leave a review on this podcast and also hit follow so you always get notified on all the future episodes we've got coming out. So thank you again, Robert, for your time. Thanks to our listeners today for taking time out with us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.